I'm Aleks.
And I'm Rob.
I'm from Novi Sad, Serbia.
And I'm from New York City.
I'm a Scorpio.
I'm a Taurus.
I'm a man.
And I'm a woman.
We are both very different.
And yet, we have a lot to talk about.
In the last episode, we sat down with Freddy Sjösten and Horne to chat more about what it's like to work on a cruise ship. On today's episode, we continue that conversation.
The most frustrating thing during rough sea is when you walk slow in the beats of the music. That is absolutely the most horrible thing because you can't look elegant and poised when you can't even plant your feet and keep them on the ground.
Especially like not even to be thingy, but like especially in heels. Like if I had the trainers on, I feel like I'm like earthy and I can like bend my knees.
Yeah,
and,
I can't even.
Do you know what I mean? Like and ground myself. But I've got
it's like
I've got
riding
these
the
silly little
subway.
heels on, and I'm like trying to do slow walks while the ship is literally going to town, like up and down, and people are lifting in their seats, and I went and held onto the piano for dear life, and I just stayed there.
Like Rob, do you remember the time we did James Bond, and it was the worst thing ever because that show is basically walking all over the stage, nothing
it's
fast.
Just walks because all the girls are wearing gowns.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It looks... I remember it looks bad because there's basically like literally walking, and when you walk slow and then you need like one step more because it's rough sea, so it's like stop, oh no, one more. Through the whole show it was ridiculous to watch. I was like,
The funniest one is when you watch like the videos where they've been filmed and you literally just see everyone like and everyone just sort of like goes to the side.
You're like, oh, we're tilting now.
Oh my god. In terms of like travel and the other parts of being on a ship, can you elaborate on like your experience with like ship life in general and like going to port?
Going out, seeing like the different countries and stuff like that. At least our jobs that we would have like time to go out.
Or I guess I'm also gonna fish Freddy to tell the story about the portholes because
knew this was coming. Yeah,
that's a straight up just a ship story. I'll have Sydney go first unless you want time to think about something.
No, I'm okay. I think I spent like 2 months, I think, in Norway to start with. Which was lovely, but like I'm quite a warm person, like so it was lovely the first time and the second time and like maybe the third time, but after that like I was freezing for what felt like forever. And like I'd never seen snow like this in my life. Like I was like, oh my god, like I can't believe this, people live like this is amazing. Yeah, after a little while I was like, oh my god, like I need to go somewhere else, I can't deal with this anymore. But I loved going to St. Petersburg because St. Petersburg like in Russia wasn't what I thought it would be like at all, because I just feel like I expected it to be so different. Like, you know, like how you have an image in your head, like I feel like I feel like my preconceived idea of what Russia would be like, and I know obviously if I'd have gone to somewhere else in Russia it would have been a completely different story, but like I just assumed everywhere there would be like so serious and so strict and so like and everywhere there maybe would be like people from the army walking around, and like it would be, because when we was told as well, like to get in there, like if you're American you can't get off the ship, and if you haven't got a seaman's card that matches your passport you can't get off the ship. And do you know what I mean? Like, I was only allowed to get off because luckily, although I had my German seaman's card, I also had a British one. Oh. So because I had my British one, I was allowed to get off the ship because it matched my passport. So I was like, oh my God, like, what is this going to be like? It's going to be like a third world country, and it's going to be like, oh... And it literally was just like nicer than London. It was so clean, and it was during the summer, and it was really warm, and it was like 30 degrees, and like the shop, like, and I don't know. And
we were sunbathing.
Yeah, we were sunbathing like, in Russia. I was sunbathing. Like if you'd have told me that the hottest place I'd have gone on my contract was going to be Russia, I'd have laughed in your face. Like I just got told I was going Norway and thought, right, well I don't need any like skirts, shorts, dresses, nothing. I'm just going to take jeans and like. And then I was boiling. I had to go and buy shorts and stuff because I was in Russia in 34-degree heat, and I was like. What? Oh this is not what I expected. No, of course not. But yeah, no, I think I matured a lot on the ship in the sense that I think I was very like ignorant to like what I expected countries to be like, and I just this will be like this and this will be like this, and nothing was like that. Do you know what I mean? Like nothing was like that. Like, and I don't know why. I think you just have an idea of how everything's going to be, and I just feel like nothing, like it was just so different. Like I feel like your eyes get opened so much, like the first time that you're away from home, especially the first ship you do, I just was, every day I was like, this is just not what I expected at all. And not necessarily in a bad way, like in good ways, but like, just, yeah, it's not something that I would have expected, or how places that I would have expected them to be.
Also, to speak about St. Petersburg, I was only there on my first contract, and because I got it so late, I didn't have time to get the necessary documents to be able to go outside, so I had to stay on board. And we had overnights there, I imagine you had as well. And I remember one of the overnights was a big crew party, because there were a lot of crew members that couldn't leave. So we had a big crew party, and that was my first real crew alert on board. I've had a couple, but this was the first one, and it was because of a fire on board.
Oh.
But luckily we were in the port of St. Petersburg, and it never went further than crew alert. But yeah, that was my my experience of St. Petersburg, I guess.
The thing with St. Petersburg is as well, like, I don't know, it's the same, I would assume, for a lot of people. If you're from like the UK or places in like the EU or whatever, like, you get data, like mobile data, like in a lot of places where you don't have to pay any extra. The issue with St. Petersburg is, I don't know about other people, but it wasn't included on a lot of the people that I was with that was from England's plans. So if you can't get off the ship, you can't turn your phone on when you're above like deck 3 or whatever to just use the data on your phone. So you literally like, and we was there for like 3 days, like 2 nights. So if you can't get off the ship, which a lot of people couldn't, you can't then go and find free Wi-Fi anywhere. You can't do anything. You're literally just stuck on the ship, and you've literally just got to use the expensive ship Wi-Fi the whole time because you are stuck and you can't turn your phone on.
Going back to the crew alert, you just reminded me of, so the last, I think it was maybe even just the last month that we were on, they were changing security and crew alert protocol.
Yeah.
But there would be times where they would call for I almost said rehearsal, for like a drill, and they would only say crew alert once or something, where it would sound like it was a real emergency, basically. I don't remember the details of everything. But there would be so many times where we would go to our
stations,
Freddy and I were both in... I think you were
we were
like,
deputy leader in the theater. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And we would be there and we'd be like, are we supposed to be here? Or is this a drill? Or is this a this? Like, but there's nothing worse than when you hear like the man overboard, or you hear
in the morning,
and you're is this a drill? And they'll be like, man overboard.
For exercise.
Like in your drowsiness, you're like, oh god, and then you're like, oh, it's only man overboard. Okay.
Like, because you don't have to you don't have to be up like early per se, but they do the drills like whenever really, but like, do you know what I mean? Like usually like 10 o'clock is like the earliest they'll do one, but you might still be in bed, like, and you just hear it and you're still like half asleep and you're like, oh my god, like someone's
the panic.
If you didn't check the drill plan, and it's not. Is it for us or is it not for us? So it's not.
That like half a second where like your heart literally stops beating and you're like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had somebody pass away on board, and we also had some rough sea where like people had to be airlifted, and those would come over like, you know, the crew speakers, and you'd be like, oh man, that's actually happening.
Oh my god.
Yeah, somebody, and it was early in the morning. It was I don't remember, but it's been so long. It's been like months since I've been on a ship, so I kind of forget.
We were in the Canaries. We did our whole contract together in the Canaries, and then we went back to.
We went to Hamburg and Norway.
Oh yeah, that's it.
We went along the coast.
Yeah, you did two last cruise was
in Norway.
I think it was.
Just remember, I think was my first contract. We had like emergency. We were playing on a pool deck, and I remember everything stopped because obviously like the sound system is always override by that, and we all stopped, and we were like expecting like a medical emergency. We were like, because we were a special needs team. And we were playing at the time. We were like,
"Oh my god,
are we going?" Yeah, and it was not. It was called to the hospital, and that actually I know the guy was a nurse at that. Later in the crew bar, he told me he was doing a CPR on somebody, and actually saved his life.
Oh,
wow!
But we were like, we were like, everything stopped obviously, and we were listening. We were like, okay. Medical emergency, we were like, okay, we are next now.
Like the fact that you guys are special needs, it's like, oh my god.
I remember like sitting on a cajon and listening, like, what the hell?
Yeah, you're just waiting. You're just waiting to hear like the thing that is associated with you.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but I did actually have I was involved in a medical emergency. It was very late at night, and it was the day before we went back to the home port, and it was in the Canaries. And I was with this guy on board. It was the guest artists +1 or something. We had just had some drinks, and we were heading down, and I was going to say bye. And then we passed the reception desk, which is on deck 6, and then going down to deck 5. He decided to like jump and try to grab onto the back of the stairs and swing down. I don't know if you can imagine that, but then he missed, and he landed on his leg and broke his ankle. So he laid there, and I could just see when he like flipped his leg around, and it was just like a piece of jelly.
You can see, can't you?
Yes,
you can see when a boner's gone, it's gone.
What? And I was like, what just happened? And it was like 2:30, I think, or something. And I just ran down there, and I sat on the floor next to him, and I grabbed his leg, and I was just sitting there. Like, I remember I held his leg with one arm, and I had my hand under his shoe, and I was just trying to hold it steady, because I could feel like there was no connection whatsoever.
If I hold it here long enough, it will go back together. It'll be fine.
Exactly. I was just like, if I just hold it, maybe it will stick. But nothing happened, of course. And I was sitting on deck 5 then, and the receptionist on deck 6, and I was shouting towards the reception. I was like, "Help! Like someone!" And he heard like my initial reaction, and he came running, and he called the hospital, and it was medical emergency on the ship, and then the doctor came with a wheelchair. But I was sitting there for a good like maybe 10 minutes, because it was so late at night as well, so they had to call the doctor on duty had to go, and he was like in bed sleeping, and I just sat there with this guy with his broken leg in my hands. And then I had check-in the next day. I remember I was like, I need to go to sleep because I have check-in. I have to be there at 8:00 outside the ship tomorrow. I was such a mess.
But those kinds of kind of crazy stories, that's kind of a ship life for you.
Yes.
I mean, not for you, I
definitely.
mean in general. Like, that's kind of,
Freddy, every contract, he's always helping people with their broken legs.
Right?
That's ship life for Freddy. No.
I was just like, the term break a leg does not have the same meaning anymore. I
Someone says that, you're like, do not say that to me.
Yeah, I was saying to people, I was like, unless you've actually held a broken leg in your hands, you can't say that.
Oh my god.
I know the feeling, not nice. No, to jump back to what Rob said before about the story about a porthole. So basically ship life, I know everyone can relate to this, but ship life means a lot of rules and regulations. Like, half the time you don't know you're making something wrong unless you've already done it and you've been told off or got a warning. Most of the time. Like, there's stuff coming up all the time.
Sydney, you got a warning? What did you do?
Oh no.
What?
I was just like, sorry, Freddy. I was just looking at her. She's smiling. Oh, she got warning.
Yeah.
Sorry, Freddy. Continue.
But I only got the one, and I didn't do anything awful. I didn't kill anyone, but I was very naive and sort of did something that I shouldn't really have done. Wouldn't do it again, but like...
Yeah.
So, you guys may or may not know this, but Aleks and I actually use this really great service called Anchor to make our podcasts. Number one, it's free. But there's also some great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcasts right from your phone or computer. Which, again, Aleks and I live literally oceans apart, so all we have is our phone or our computer to use to connect with each other to make these podcasts. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can actually make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, which is really great. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. God, this is so bittersweet to listen to, because I'm like, oh, this is so fun, and like these stories are bringing me back, but it's like,
yeah, no, at the minute it's a bit,
yeah.
Like, I know people that are on ships now, and it's like, even though they're there, like, they can't mix with anyone else. Like, do you know what I mean? They have to stay within their departments, and like, and I know personally, like, Aleks will probably like back me up as well. Like my contract, if I could only have mixed with my cast, I'd have had a very different contract. Like, because I didn't really spend that much time with anyone from the cast, bar when I was doing shows. Like, don't get me wrong, there was no issues with any of them. We all got on really well. There weren't really that many arguments in-house. But, like, everyone in our cast had boyfriends and girlfriends to start with as well. Which apparently is rare, like, to have a whole cast where everyone's in relationships. Like, so... Do you know what I mean? Like, literally everyone was in a relationship to start with. Well, most people were in one to end with as well, but... Anyway. Most people were in relationships. So, like, everyone, like, when they had free time of an evening, wanted to go and, like, speak to their partners or do this or do that. And if I couldn't have, like... Sounds ridiculous, but, like, gone crew bar and, like, spoke to other people, like... When I was on Cara, I knew everyone on that ship. Like, I spoke to literally every single person. Like... Even when I had, you know, you have your, like, review thing where they have to, like, score you out of numbers and stuff like that. The thing that I got the best on was, like, my networking. Like, because Armin said to me, he was like, I'm always surprised with who you know. Like, I will see you talking to someone, and I'm like, when has she gone and... But I could talk to a brick wall. So I'd just speak to people, because if I didn't, I'd be bored. Like... Because everyone wants to go to their cabin after the show, and I don't want to go back to my cabin after the show.
You're different personalities, for sure.
So, like, if I'm not going to go and make the effort with people, I'm literally going to be sat talking to myself. So, like, if, like, now, like, with the restrictions they have now, where you have to just stick to your department, like, because of, obviously, COVID, I honestly, I would literally just be on my own. Do you know what I mean? Like, and all the time. And, like, the ship is a weird place to be, because, like, I would say you're surrounded by people, but it can be a very lonely place.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely.
It's really strange. Like, there's people everywhere, and at any time of the day, you could go and find someone.
Yeah, it's like water everywhere, but not a single drop to drink.
Oh my god, 100%, 100%.
Or like living in a city where it's like you live amongst so many people, but you only really hang out with a few at a time. It kind of, you know, feels like at some point.
If you. Also, I feel like if you have any kind of problem, whatever that might be, it's like exaggerated because you don't have anywhere to run from it. Basically,
yeah, especially if you're at sea.
Yeah.
If you have like an issue, I had one night where I had like, I had quite a lot of like ill family health during my contract, and I had one night where it was just getting to me, and the Wi-Fi weren't working, and it was at that point that I sort of thought, I'm in the middle of like the sea, the ocean, wherever I was. I actually can't, even if I want to, I can't contact anyone from home. Do you know what I mean? The only people I can contact are the people that are on this ship right now. Like, and when, like, it sounds really stupid, like, oh, the Wi-Fi weren't working. But do you know what I mean? Like, it took something like that, and it just something, that little thing that the Wi-Fi weren't working to, like, tip me over the edge, where I was like, oh my God. Like, no one can contact me.
No.
Yeah.
Which seems silly that was the first time that dawned on me, but I think it was because all the other times when I'd gone to use it, it just sort of worked and it was there, do you know what I mean? But it was that time where I was having sort of like a down thing and it weren't working, and I was like, this is it. Which is why I think you create such intense relationships with the people that are there, because like, you work with them, you eat with them, like, some people share cabins, so you sleep with them, like they're everywhere. Like, it's just all, it's kind of not normal to spend that amount of time with people. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's very, and especially on the small ship, it's basically like somebody like pressed like fast forward, like you in a month of like spending time with somebody. Like, if you like somebody, regardless of like being in some kind of relationship or whatever, you just like hang out for like a month on a ship. I don't know, it's like 3 months normal life, maybe even more, depends, like, because you're so focused on each other, especially on a small ship.
Especially because like normally maybe you would go on like one day every weekend, so in that month you might have seen that person like four times if you see them every week, which I think if you're only just starting to date someone, you probably wouldn't even see them every single weekend. Do you know what I mean? But say you did, that's 4 times. But this person is literally like in a cabin, like a 3-minute walk away from you, 24 hours a day for like however many months. And it's honestly, it's like a day is a week, and a week is a month, and a month is a year. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. It's so crazy.
It is,
That's, I think Alex and I have trouble trying to explain that to people sometimes, because I think there's also the whole stigma of like the cruise ship relationship stuff, but
romancing and trying to get it to work.
time is time is a vacuum.
Yeah, and you have to they're like, I feel that you cannot explain everything, and there is nobody can prepare you like totally for it.
Nah, I think even someone that's done a ship contract, like I spoke to my friends before that had done ships, and also I've spoke to friends now that like did a ship after me, and no matter how much you say to them, you cannot prepare someone for what that is like. Like, it is such a strange place to be. The rules are so weird. Like, the things that, like, the moral compasses for some people are just completely in a different world. Yeah. Like, it is just a completely
it's a unique experience for everyone. Like, everyone experiences it differently. And you can think that you can prepare someone, but then you're like, no, not really. Like, it's so different. It's so different. And I mean, I can only speak for myself. Like, I've had 7 very different contracts. I mean, I've been up, I've been down, I've been having the time of my life. I've had contracts where I'm like, get me off this ship now. Like, it's been so bizarre to also go back to a place. I've done Kara 3 times. So it's also been very, very weird coming back to the same ship, but different constellations, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's been weird.
I wanted to ask, like, Sydney, I mean, I know, but, like, for the sake of podcast, how did you feel, or what's your, I'm asking Sydney when so Sydney came...
Oh, because I come to visit, didn't I?
And
So that was really weird. Yeah. So I come to visit you in Dover, didn't I? Yeah. So I think I disembarked the ship July the year before.
Yeah, something, June or July. July, yeah.
Yeah, the year before, and then I came back in February. So obviously, like, I don't know, what's that, like 6, 7, 8 months later?
Yeah. By the way, we were all on that ship at the same time at one point because they were there.
Yeah.
Oh, how weird.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's funny, isn't it? Yeah. So we've all been we've all actually been on Aida Cara at the same time. So yeah, I came in the February to visit Aleks in Dover, and it was really strange. Like, bear in mind, my passport still had the like Aida Cara bit like stamped on the front.
Yeah, a Manning number.
And I was like going on the ship, and they went to like tell me the rules, and they was like, "Oh, you've done Aida." I was like, "Hun, like I've done this ship. Like I lived here." But it's very weird. Like, you feel like the only thing I can liken it to is like you've moved house and then you've gone to visit the new people that live there.
Yeah.
So it's like they've got their furniture in there and things are a bit different, and like say like they've moved the sofa. Do you know what I mean? Like the sofa's in a different position to what your one was.
Yeah.
It was really like, it was weird, like, because I was walking like in front of Aleks, and Aleks went to walk in front of him, and he was like, "Oh no, I don't need to do that." Do you know what I mean? To like lead me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because obviously normally when you have a visitor, they don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
But obviously I could lead myself because I knew where I was going. So it was really strange, like, and yeah, it was just like little things. Like I think they had like different lamps. So like I had a lamp somewhere, and I was like, sort of like put out.
You're like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Who's put that lamp there? Do you know what I mean? Like,
who's in charge of this ship? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's very strange. How I feel? I feel the same with the day you disembark, and suddenly it's like you're no one, because the new ensemble is on board, but you're still on board. So you're like, I don't have my cabin, I don't have nowhere to go because it's not mine anymore, and it's so weird because you're like, I'm just
and you're
a nobody
waiting to
now.
Get picked up. You're just like in limbo. Just gonna wander around until it's time to go to the airport.
I'll go to the bar and get some coffees or something with my still working card. But I can't go to my cabin. Yeah. Also, just the fact, we had it on our contract. I don't know if you remember, Rob, but we were in the theater, kind of like huddled together, and they were doing like sound checks and check the videos for Aida Stars, and that's also very weird. Like, you're used to seeing your own videos, and then you see this new cast and their songs and their intro videos, and you're like, wait a second, that's not me and someone I know. That's someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's also such a weird feeling.
You know what it is as well? When backstage they like peel off your name stickers and put all the new ones there, and you're like, hang on, I haven't actually gone yet. Like, this is still my mirror until tomorrow.
Yeah, so weird.
So I'm just going to ask you one last question, all of you guys. What do you think is going to be the future of cruise ships and cruising? And what do you think your part in that future will be, if you will be there or not? Heavy.
It's a very hard one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Very hard. I don't know.
Sydney had a contract, but... Yeah, like you, Rob, basically.
Yeah, I was supposed to be embarking another ship tomorrow. Because because I was supposed to be living in Berlin now, because I was actually going to work for a different German company. Obviously got a thing for German cruise ships.
It was from September, right? In Berlin, and then...
Yeah, so I was supposed to have been living in Berlin September to November, and then November to April on a different ship. Mine shift 5.
Yeah, because they're still kind of going.
But I don't know. I know people that are on cruise ships now, as I'm sure like some of you do. It's very different. Obviously, with how cases are still rising and things are always going up and down, things are likely to change all of the time. So I know, obviously, AIDA was supposed to have like some people going on cruises, and now they've had to cancel them until the end of November. So, but there are crew on ships now that have gone back to work. Like, they have to quarantine when they first get there. Yeah. They can't mix between their departments. They have set eating. Obviously, we had set eating times anyway, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But they have set times that like them and like however many people from their departments go. And I don't know. Like, for me, like, obviously I've only got one contract to base it on, and the contract that I was on, the majority of my free time was sort of spent with people that weren't in my department, which obviously every contract is different, but a lot of my time was spent with people that weren't in my department. So if I was going off the basis of that, for me, I don't think I would have a very enjoyable contract other than my actual work, which I'd love, because of the fact that you're very much limited to this small amount of people, and obviously it's a very intense environment anyway, and the fact that you've got no option of going and don't get me wrong, there's good reasons for all of these restrictions, but the fact that there's no option to like go and see these people or go and meet someone else, or do you know what I mean, like you'd be maybe limited to like that 10-15 people that you can spend time with for possibly like 4 months. Like, I know a friend who knows people that have signed contracts to go with a certain cruise company where they may not have any shore leave for 6 months. Whoa. That is in their contract that could be a possibility. And I know, from getting very heavy now, but I know especially like for my mental state, I could not be on a ship for 6 months and have no shore leave.
I don't think anyone could, honestly.
Yeah.
And I just think, and I get why people are agreeing to these contracts. I completely understand that. Like, it is very uncertain times. No one knows where they stand. No one knows when, like, a lot of people don't know when they're going to be able to work again. So I get that when the offer comes through, it's very hard to then say, you know what, I've got to put my mental health or whatever before that and not do that. But yeah, like the fact that like some of these contracts may go ahead and people won't be able to get off the ship for like 6 months, like it does scare me. Like, and it sounds horrendous, but like, and it sounds really deep, and I hope this, but like, I can't see how it gets back to normal. Does that make sense? Like, at the moment, I don't want to be all like doom and gloom and things like that, but like, because ships anyway, like, you know, when you get on and off the ship, you have to sanitize your hands. When you was going into restaurants and crew mess, you have to sanitize your hands. Like, that's standard procedure on a ship. That's not new. They haven't brought that in since Corona. Now everyone started washing their hands. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's true.
So I really don't know. Like, I hope it finds its way back. I really do. And like, I am really grateful to the people that are going on ships and are working with these new restrictions and are, do you know what I mean, like getting back to normal and doing things like that, because I don't know if I could. It sounds a bit bleak, but like, I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful, but like, that is the truth of it at the moment, to be honest, from me anyway.
Freddy?
Yeah, I agree. Like you say, there's so many factors with ship life because people leave the ship and go on the ship. It's so hard to contain it, because if you have like a place on land, you can still monitor people going in and out, but here it's like they leave and you're in a different country, you're in a different port, and it's so hard to keep it contained, so to speak. And I think that would be hard. It would be hard to get it going like normal. It would take a lot of time, I think. And I think I've come full circle to accept that now. I was in denial for a very long time, because we also had I know Rob was going on a contract as well. I almost booked a cruise on that contract to go
around now. We would be hanging out.
Yes,
now.
we would. Glad I didn't do that. No, but I was also supposed to go back in early April. I was gonna go to rehearse for a contract, and that was obviously cancelled. But then I don't think it was like end of July, beginning of August. That's when I finally like stopped hanging on to the hope that things would go back to normal within like a short period of time. I know things will probably go back to some kind of version of what it used to be, but I'm no longer sitting around waiting for it to happen. I'm trying to take steps towards redirecting my way of living or working, earning money, interests, hobbies. I'm no longer holding on to the thread of working on a ship as tightly as I used to before. So I also hope it will go back, and I'm optimistic about it. And I think when it does, or if it does, I will probably still be there and be interested. But like you say, Sydney, if it's a situation where I have to maybe like compensate, so I get a contract but I have to stay on board for 6 months, I don't know at this time. I think 3 months ago I would definitely have said yes, but now I don't know. I would probably be very unsure, and I would also probably have to think about it and see what is worth it. But yeah, it's hard. A lot of people, especially in media, they're like, be positive, think about the good things, be optimistic. But sometimes it's also good to just acknowledge that maybe you have to actually accept the thought that things will not be as they were before. And I think that's also healthy.
Yeah.
Like, coming to a realization is also healthy, and not just go around denying everything and hoping that, or thinking that everything will be okay. Because for a lot of people it won't be okay, and for a lot of people it's not okay even now. So I'm trying to be realistic, trying to be optimistic, but I'm also realizing that, yeah, things will be different.
So knowing that this was probably what you guys were going to say, we'll leave with a fun anecdote of Freddy almost getting kicked off of the ship.
Yes. So this
to
little...
lighten everyone's mood.
Yes.
Lighten the mood after the doom and gloom of like, our lives are ruined, we have no cruise jobs,
the end is near.
we've all had contracts cancelled.
Yeah, let's end with being happy on a contract and almost being fired. Such a good story. Yeah, so...
When there was a contract to be kicked out of.
Yes, exactly. When there were still contracts that you could be kicked out of. So this was back in 2018, I believe. It was my 5th contract. I just came out of Aida Luna, and I was going on Aida Aura. And it was my first contract as a show supervisor. And I had the privilege of getting a cabin with a porthole. So that was exciting, daylight, natural light. So that was exciting. But of course it was my first time, and I kind of loosely knew about the rules regarding the porthole, of course. But then we had the route where you travel through the Suez Canal going up to Dubai, and then we had to go back through that area. And just that square outside of Oman is like a security level 2 area. And that means that they have certain procedures on board to keep the ship safe through those waters, because they're dangerous territories. And there's a lot of like piracy and stuff like that. So basically one of the rules is that you have to have your porthole closed from a certain time of the day, and then until you've come out of this area. And that's because you don't let any light out of the ship, because obviously when the portholes are open, people can you see the light. So basically they were supposed to be shut, and they were shut to begin with, but I was sick, I think 1 or 2 days of those days when we were in that zone. And I just remember waking up this one day and I was still written off sick. I went to the doctor at 8 o'clock or 7:45, like you have to as a crew member, to get either written off sick or you have to get rid of your sick leave. So basically you're back on duty, but you have to go there either way. So I went there, and then I went back to my cabin because I was still on sick leave. So I was resting in my cabin, and I woke up around like 11:30, right before crew mess opens. And I just remember like, it would be so nice to just have some sunlight in my cabin. So I just proceed to just fully open my porthole, and I open it, didn't think of it. So then I go on about my day. It was a sea day, and I was written off sick. So I just ate, and then I went back to my cabin. I had my Switch with me, so I was playing some games, and time passes on, and suddenly it's like 6:30 or something, and then it's become dark outside, of course. So then I'm just sitting there, I'm playing Mario, Super Mario on Switch, and in the middle of it, I hear this really loud knock. Like when you have friends over that they have a certain knocking, like a pattern or a technique, kind of who it is. This was like a loud, assertive knocking on my door. So I go to my cabin door, and I open the door, and lo and behold, there's Staff Captain and Zeko, and they're just staring at me like in disbelief, and they're like, why is your porthole open? And I look at them and I'm like, I'm looking back at my porthole and I'm like, so fucking stupid. I'm like, cause it's open, cause I opened it. And they're like, you're not allowed to have it open. Close it. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? And they're like, no, you have to close it now. It's against the safety and security regulations. And I'm like, holy, oh God, what have I done? So I just go over there and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I thought it was over. I thought you could have them open now. And they're like, no, you can't. You absolutely cannot have your porthole open. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And the Segway's like, is this your first contract? And I'm like, no, it's not my first contract. And he was like, yeah, then you should know. And I'm like, no, well, actually, it's my first contract with a porthole. So I couldn't have known before. But then I'm like, I'm feeling so stupid because I'm being like screamed at by the Seco and the staff captain. But then on top of this, when they're still there, like in the opening of my cabin, my F3, who's my neighbor, she comes by and she's like, oh, hello guys. And then she opens her cabin, opens her door, and then they look into her cabin and her portal is open as well. Oh my God. So she gets caught like red-handed, and she had done the same thing as me. She had opened her porthole without thinking like about the regulations and rules, so she just opens it, really talking to us, and they're like, well, now you have to go to the bridge and have a meeting, and it becomes this whole thing. Like, I'm sitting in crew mess the same night, and I'm feeling so bad. I'm like shaking, I'm nervous, I'm like, I'm gonna get fired, I'm gonna go home for this, because apparently it's really, really serious. And well, basically, we got called a couple of days later to the bridge, and we had a meeting with the staff captain, and he was really firm. Like, he was like pointing it out that we broke not only security but safety rules as well. So we had broken like the two biggest things you can break on board, basically. And what happened was that we had to have a hearing with the HR. So we had to have a witness. It was this whole thing. So my manager was my witness, and he had to vouch for me. He had to like come there and sit next to me and say like, Freddy doesn't have any ill intent, like it wasn't maliciously done. Oh, no. And I was just apologizing because I had to like write a defend letter. Like, I had to defend myself.
Oh my God.
Like defend my case. And I couldn't defend myself because I was like, I'm guilty. I did it. Everyone knows I did. But like, I just had to say that it wasn't my intention, and that I know that I did a mistake and that I was never going to do it again. Like, what can you do? You can't do more than that. So we did that. Basically, a couple of more days goes by because this has to be brought to the ship council. The ship council has to make the decision that you either stay or you get fired. So we have to wait again for the ship council to have a meeting and decide the fate of me and this girl.
Such a process.
And it's decided that both of us get to and both of us get to stay in the end.
What probably saved you is that they can't replace you easily in the entertainment department.
Exactly. We found out, or I found out later when I spoke with my manager, because we also had the same position during the crew alerts and stuff like that. We were the work team deputy and leader, so we could speak a lot there. And we spoke to each other, and he told me, he was like, Freddy, I just have to tell you this about your warning. And I was like, yeah, what about it? And he was like, did you know that it was this close that you got fired? And I was like, well, I don't doubt it, but I didn't get fired. And he was like, no, because me and the entertainment manager were putting in so many good words for both of us, like both for me and for her. And they were saying that it's too hard to replace us on the ship, and it would be much more of a debacle if they had to fire us and then find people to assume our positions, because it would take too much work. So I think they wanted to make a statement by firing members of the ensemble, but in the end they didn't.
So how long was that, like a trial or a process or whatever you want to call it?
I think it was closer to maybe 4 weeks, I think.
Oh my God.
Are you joking? I thought you was going to say like a week.
Yeah, me too.
No, like from the day it happened to the day when I finally signed the written warning that I finally got, I think it was almost 4 weeks.
Someone could have literally come and said to you, like, you're going home tomorrow.
Yeah. Because we were always asking, like, do you have any news? Like, do you know anything?
Oh my God.
And it's just like, no.
I don't think
no news.
Oh my God, just hanging by a thread for a month.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
I was telling the others too, I was like, it would suck to get fired for something that doesn't involve my work.
All because you just wanted some daylight.
Yeah, I just wanted some sweet vitamins, you know? So
Vitamin D.
That was my fault. Yeah.
Well, with that, I think Aleks and I want to thank both of you for being on our podcast. We certainly had a lot to talk about today. So thank you so much for being on, guys.
Thank you, too. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. We have a lot to talk about in our next episode. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @WeHaveALotToTalkAbout podcast. Until next time, ta-da!